Hey, it's Stace here from Sacred Art and Story. And I want to talk today a little bit about how creative you feel, or maybe how creative you do not feel. And if we can, let's take this whole conversation out of the idea of crafting and creating an art and what you're making, and think about it from the perspective of how connected you are to your own creative energy, which I think of as this creative life force energy, right? It is the energy that kind of inspires us and guides us and makes us curious and kind of gives us permission to try new things, even if we don't know what we're doing, and kind of like paint our story, if you will, in a more metaphorical, kind of perspective. And this just has been coming up so much for me. I think it's been in conversations over on the Feisty Crone, which is my Substack. It's been showing up with people who have been coming to my classes where I'm just not really that creative, kind of comes up when they hit the wall, right? When they kind of feel pushed to try something new, do something new, like start without any direction and just choose what they want to do, no rules or anything. It's like something gets triggered, within them. And the phrase that comes up immediately is like, well, I'm just not really that creative, so I don't really know what to do. And I think that's just such a lie that we've been taught. We are creative beings. We are constantly in connection with this creative energy that fuels us, that inspires us, that we are connected to our own imagination. And so whenever we start to say things like, I'm just not creative, that edge that we need, it's really kind of saying, well, I just don't feel empowered, to do what I want to do. I don't really trust that creative energy, so I don't really know what to do with it. I don't feel safe, like just doing the thing that I want to do. Like we just don't have that permission. Um, yeah, all of it and more. There is that blockage, that I think that's where we have to tend to. Like every single time we sort of meet that edge where we start to feel like, well, I'm just not really creative. I don't really know how to sort of just make something out of nothing. And again, I'm not talking about crafting, I'm talking about our lives too, right? It's both. I think that's why for me, like the creative stuff that I love to do, it shows us more of like who we are and how willing we are to play in that energy of creativity with a capital C, that life force energy that takes us into something bigger, that shows us that we can just do things and see what happens. We can try new things. We can follow our own inner direction. So when the edge shows up, like when the words come in, I'm just not really creative, or you don't feel creative, or you get to that frustrating place where it feels like you don't know what to do in life, you know. I think it's about really stopping and recognizing that there's the fear of being in that creative energy, of empowering yourself to trust it, to live it, to follow it, to feel safe enough in it, to try things you've never tried and just see what happens. And the work is really about how do you get to play in that space a little bit more. That's why I do love like creative projects, art projects and things like that, because we do start with a blank page, right? We get to practice it. We get to sort of watch ourselves move through like the fear and the distrust and the just the whole process of just starting and seeing what happens when you pick a color and you paint it or you do whatever you're going to do. It's the same thing with life, but more and more and more I'm hearing this. I'm sort of just not in that creative place. And I think it's because so many women are really kind of coming into this place where they're finding the edge. I feel that with, women who are definitely coming into the third, phase of their lives, and they kind of move through menopause, and they've kind of hit that place where we're starting to feel our power more, and we feel that edge, and we doubt ourselves, and we question ourselves, and we do really start to feel like we're not sort of creative in that way, like in our lives. So I just want to nip that phrase, I'm not really creative, in the bud and just stop saying that. But the work, I think, is really to recognize that there's something so much deeper going on when we feel that way, when we sort of turn ourselves off to like really trying something really different. Um, Recognize that it's about your power, recognize that it's about how you've been taught to engage with creativity, the bigger flow of energy, and to just start to do things in your life that maybe are creatively different, and to see if you can give yourself a little love around that, and to just take a step, right? Whatever that little next step is to stretch into that more creative sense of self, the more freedom, the more choice, the more willingness to try and maybe fail. That to me is where we get to grow. And that to me is where the real creativity exists. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. So leave a comment. Yeah, but get out there and do your thing.